Hey everybody, I'm Jay Jones,
And I'm LT.
and we are the Dose Offensive Gentlemen. Now let's talk about some shit.
Hey, Jay,
What's up?
I think we're back.
Are we back?
We're back!
All right.
So I think the last time we apologized for not being gone for a long time.
We did, yeah. Because
Yeah.
we just listened to it. We're like, oh shit, we're going to have to say that again.
Yeah, I was like, we're going to have to do this all again. And it's mainly because we've been busy.
Yeah. Lots going on. Being away.
Yep.
The comings and goings.
Yeah, so this episode is going to be mainly about our trips.
Yeah, the Bacchanalian Peregrine Adventures.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I like to call them. I don't care if anybody gets it.
But the last couple of weeks, it's been hard to get together because I've been back and forth several places. Jay's been back and forth several places, and then
and I'm going right back out.
Yep.
This is just the calm before the storm.
You're heading right back out.
Yeah.
I'm about to be overworked, underpaid, underappreciated. So
I mean, that's only half true.
Yeah, that's true.
You're way underpaid.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
So we've been really, really busy, but we've gotten a lot of good things to talk about in our travels. And so on this one, this is going to be actually a change of pace. Jay is going to take the lead here because he went out and not only had a kick-ass business trip, but brought back many wonderful things for us to many great libations for us to try. So with this, let's go into our
Bartender Weekly.
So
this is what happens when you don't have the podcast so much, man. Like all my energy goes into yells like that. Like I feel like I'm Michael Buffer.
Oh my God.
See, you know what I'm talking about. Let's get ready to rumble. I get paid lots of money to say that. But yeah, so one of the things I brought back from my travels was wine. From my favorite winery, which is going to be kind of a focal point of the discussion. So, without any further ado, so we have Scarbolo is the name of the winery. It was introduced to me back in 2010 timeframe, 2011, when I lived in Italy, and by far my favorite winery, by far. So it is located up in the north of Italy, in the Friuli Veneto region, just outside of Udine, Udine. So it looks like Udine, but it is absolutely. See, look. So I'm gonna just say that it's not so unique of a wine, but I have such an emotional attachment to it that I just love it. You know. And I'll get into the backstory on that too. But for Bartender Weekly, we are drinking a Pinot Grigio wine. This is the first wine for the podcast, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So, so it's a Pinot Grigio, and it's called Mattia, Mattia, and what it is this particular. Vintage? Was that wine? Because I mean, he has a few different Pinot Grigios, but this particular one was named after his son, and he has another one named Laura that's named after his daughter because they're entering into the business, so they did their own wines and they named them after themselves, and they're both really good. But again, it's a whole family affair. It just
how cool is that,
right?
I mean, it's I have my own wine.
Yeah. Laura, that's me.
Yeah,
Mattia, that's me.
and and if it does well and the winery does well, that's something that's gonna live. That's gonna live after them.
Absolutely.
So,
and that brings me to another thing. The winery has Scarbolo Wines has a variety of wines, but I know for sure that his My Time, which we've had before previously. which is a white blend between a Chardonnay, a Pinot Grigio, and something else. I'm not entirely sure. Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, and
in that region, I don't think they don't do Rieslings down there.
No, they're Rieslings. So I'll have to look that up later. But so that's what so his My Time is rated like in like the wine magazines and wine ratings like high 90s out of 100. So I mean it's absolutely just a fantastic wine. So that's definitely one of my favorites on the white spectrum. But then you go on the red spectrum. So racist. Yeah, I was waiting for it. And then you have Refosco. Refosco is like something that it's just so delicious. It's like a Merlot light.
Yeah.
Because it's really smooth, but it doesn't have as much of like a dry bite to it.
It has more of I'd say probably a fruitier.
Little bit, but it's not sweet wine at all.
No, it's not a sweet wine. It's a dry wine, but it's not. Yeah. It's not super dry. It's not like
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't have that high tannin concentration, so you're not going to do that. But anyway, let's get back to the Laura or to the Mattia. So that is what we're drinking. I do not know the exact vintage of this. It is a 2015 Friuli Pinot Grigio from Scarbolo Wines, and we are going to take a sip. And just as a reminder to our listeners. You're not going to hear the clink this time.
Yeah, no
whiskey, no cubes. It's just straight deliciousness.
Yeah.
So I expect you to always be drinking. All right. So it's my turn to do the toast, and I will toast that. Let me get my snob voice going on. Life is too short to drink shitty wine. Cheers.
I don't think this.
Shut up, LT. It works.
I mean, I agree with the sentiment, but I don't think that's how.
Life's too short to drink bad wine. Yeah.
Yes, but we put our own DOG spin on it.
Yeah.
And so that's how it's going to be from now on.
Yeah. Would you expect anything less? That's my question to you, really. Like, would you? If I would have said it properly, you'd been like, such a disappointment, such a wasted opportunity.
So let down.
Yeah. So what do you think of the wine? Yeah. Good, right?
One, so I'm not a very big, I prefer reds over whites.
Racist.
There we go. But when it comes to white wines, I do love Pinot Grigios. And this is one of the better ones I've had, bar none.
Yeah.
And I'm a world-class drunk. So when I say I've drunk a lot of shit, I've drunk a lot of shit. And this is by far one of the best Pinot Grigios I've had.
Nice.
Yeah. So
nice. Well, I got a box downstairs, and I think I think it's the Laura's waiting for you. So you and the wife can enjoy that. But
the who?
Oh shit.
Yeah. See now she's gonna know I have the boxes.
God. See.
Now you just ruined everything. Yeah. You know, because now she's gonna be like, no. Yeah. She's gonna be like, oh. I thought you.
Where's the wine, LT? This is bullshit.
Where's the wine? I'm like, he didn't bring us any wine, baby. He didn't bring us any wine. He drunk it all himself.
Yeah, while he was driving, asshole.
but there's like 12 empty bottles in the back seat. I don't know where those came from.
No, it's weird. Fucking, he just threw them in the back.
All right, babe. All right, I'll bring home a bottle.
Yeah, a bottle. The other 5 are staying here. No, just kidding. So anyway, let me tell you about my trip, right? So my work trip, I had to go down to Italy, just outside of Trieste, and that was a nice drive. No, it wasn't. It was
because you opted.
I opted to drive.
You opted to drive because you wanted to bring back wine instead of fly.
Well, good thing I didn't fly either. There's a good story about that.
Okay, yeah.
So good thing I decided to drive, but I decided to drive not because I was going back and forth, but because I had a secondary location that I had to go afterwards, and all the transportation obstacles, I would just rather depend on myself than driving. So that's me.
He's a strong, independent man.
I don't need no plane. Standard day of driving. I'm driving about from where we live down to Trieste, which is about an 8-hour drive. 8 hours on a good day. It took me a lot longer than that because I went through Munich, and so I went down south to southern Germany, Bavaria, crossed into, or actually, went down to Munich, got a little bit past Munich, got a phone call from a coworker, and he was like, "Hey, so just to let you know, they canceled my flight from Munich to Trieste." And like, well, I'm close to Munich. If you need a ride, he's like, "Yeah, okay." So guess what? Turned around, went and got him. And so if I wouldn't have been on that flight, it would have been canceled too, and I'd been effed. Yeah. So anyway, went and got him. So I drove that whole way by myself, and then drove with him all the way down. So from Munich to Austria, through Austria, and then into Trieste area. I absolutely love this region. It's at the base of the mountains, so you can see the mountains kind of in the distance, but it's in a valley, so it's really flat. But again, I kind of lived in this region for 4 years before, and I absolutely loved it. Just the culture, the food. Oh my god, and the wine, right? So, after we get done with work, which I'm not going to elaborate on, I get to the hotel and I'm like, "Hey guys, like I've been talking about this restaurant that Scarbolo owns, that Walter Scarbolo owns, and it's called La Frasca. And I've been talking about it. I'm like, we're going to be in the area, we're going to be close by, we're going to be like within tasting distance of this fucking place, right? So excited. Like even now, thinking about my adventure going there, I'm like getting antsy with. So I told the guys, like, I'm going to make a reservation for 4, right? Because that's how many people we had, and 2 opted out. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make reservations for 2 then. So it was a bro man date, right? Drive over there, and I'm trying. I got the coworker in the passenger seat. I'm driving, and I'm just like, yeah, this is probably like my favorite restaurant. I'm trying to like not hype it up, but I'm trying to tell him how good it was when I was there, and it's like my favorite restaurant. I loved it. We had such a great time. This is kind of what we used to do. We used to have like a group of people go like every few months, like every quarter, or like every season, and we would have a minimum of 6 drinkers. Okay, there's a reason for that, because we needed EDs. All right, so we had to have at least 6 drinkers also to go through the bottles of wine that we had. So we would go there and we would have 6, 7, 8 courses, just a complete tasting of pretty much everything. And then he would pair each course with one of his wines. And we would be there at 6, have an aperitif, and then just be talking and drinking, and then go into the meal. And then at the end, we would leave around like 1 a.m. Talking like 7 hours of eating and drinking. It was heaven. It was so good. And this is one of my favorite restaurants in the world.
See, you know what? So the problem with this right now is I didn't eat before he had this podcast.
Yeah, you did.
I had 1 slice. Okay,
hey, 1 slice. That's all.
1 slice. That is not even. That's not.
So what you're saying is that you're not technically accurate. You did eat.
Okay, I had a slice of pizza.
So let me tell you what I ate this time, right? So we get there. So I make the reservation, and then we go, and yeah, I'm cutting you off because we're going to go down that path. So make the reservation, and I get down there, and actually, when I was trying to make the reservation, nobody spoke English. So I was like, okay, well, let me try to message Walter on like the book face. So I message him, wait, and then I get a reply, and it's like one of those generic kind of replies, like, oh, thank you for coming back. Here, you can make reservations this way or this way. You could call, blah blah blah. Like, okay, so I decide to call. And no one speaks English. Like, oh, okay, well, okay. So I'm sitting there on Google Translate, like, reservation for 2. Reservato para 2. Whatever. Like, very broken, very basic. Just I am murdering the Italian language. So we get through all that, and we pick up my coworker and we start to drive, and I'm trying to tell him, like I said, about how awesome this place was, and I give him the kind of the rundown, and we finally get to the hotel or the restaurant, and it's like nothing, like no one's in there, right? There's like 2 or 3 other tables, and that's it, maybe. So go in there, I'm like, oh yeah, reservation for 2, blah blah blah, and we get there, and our waiter, who he's like the manager, God, I always forget his name, man. It's really bad of me. But he remembered us when we used to go in the big groups. And he was like, oh, yeah, you were here with the big groups that would always come. Like, yes, that was us 2 years ago. Yes, yes. And I was like, are people still coming like that? He's like, no, it was just you guys. And I'm like, oh, man, that's even better, man, to be honest. Like, it's just me? I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking take all that glory. So then, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, all right, so order a wine. And I'm like, we want to start, give me a glass of wine, whatever you want. He's like, oh, yeah, okay. So he brought us like a Prosecco or something to start off with. Okay, cool. Chug that down. That was like good. And coworker's like, yeah, that's pretty good. This is a pretty good Prosecco. Okay, cool. And he's not a snob on the food, but he likes food, the coworker. Mm-hmm. So he was liking it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like nice service, very relaxed. And then I just asked the guy, I'm like, what do you recommend for every course? And he goes, oh. I was like, I want a tasting. Like, just what do you recommend? Like, I don't care. Like I was expecting to throw down a gajillion dollars from this meal. Like, I was so hyped up and so excited. Like, that's a $90 steak. I'll take 5, please.
Yeah, so that's gonna probably go more into my story.
Probably. So I tell. Sorry. So I get the recommendations from him, and me and my coworker, like, we just kind of like swap. Like, he gets something different than I get, and we just kind of like taste it out. Mm-hmm. But then we got like this large steak at the end. So, but the first thing I got, right. So I'm like, well, I definitely want steak because I definitely love steak. So I got a Refosco because I was like, I fucking love Refosco wine. So I got Refosco, and
so just a quick pause for the those listening at home. For those of you who don't know, generally steak in Italy is shared. It's a communal dish. Yes. So it's usually a night, like in the United States, we order steaks to ourselves. In Italy, you generally get a large steak, and it's carved up, and it's shared with each other, with everyone else. Yeah. So when you said, we wanted a steak, and we between the two of them, don't think it's like a little T-bone. It's a pretty big steak.
No, it was a big T-bone. Yeah, and it was sliced up already with the T-bone already in place, and so we just grabbed off the cart or I grabbed off the plate and put it on our plate. But so to start off with, I had like a little soup kind of thing, and it was asparagus season, so everything was like asparagus everywhere. Absolutely love asparagus. So got so I think it was an asparagus soup, and then it got next course was the asparagus wrapped in prosciutto with baked Parmesan on top. That was delicious. Delicious. Then we had some pasta with prosciutto, and that was absolutely delicious. I mean, you guys can check the Facebook page, Dos Offensive Gentlemen. I have some pictures of my trip up there, so you can kind of take a look at the dishes. And then there came the ribeye. The T-bone. And the T-bone, man, like they wheeled it out on its own cart, all sliced up, and it was fantastic.
I just want to reiterate, I've only had, so we're going to be accurate. I had one very small slice of pizza.
And here I'm talking about food. But you're drinking, though.
This is not helping.
It's helping a little bit.
No. It's helping because the wine, the wine's almost gone, bro. You better catch up. You better. Hey, what you doing with my wine?
I'm feeling. Whoa.
Oh. We got territorial.
We did.
We got territorial.
This is my shit. So, I'm just gonna fill this to the brim like any other Italian would not do.
You know what? You mentioned that. You mentioned that.
They don't fill it up like that.
They don't. So, and that's a wine thing though, because we went to several places Okay, different regions, ordered bottles of wine,
Yeah.
and the one thing I always comment on is like, look, either fill it up or don't waste my time.
Well, that's why they had the lines on the glasses, though.
Right?
Well, yeah, but it's not at the fucking top. I mean, if you get a wine glass, it's like what, like 0.2 liters or something like that?
No,
or-
but like, okay, so when you look at a one, especially at the restaurants, they
Right.
will have several lines on them, but that top line is never. I've never seen anyone fill up to the top line.
Well,
Now it's not all the way up to the top, but it's a lot higher than what they normally fill it to.
right. That's because I have no idea, but I don't
They're trying.
I don't know, man. Like
I'm like, look, if I buy,
I could go the business route.
No, because if I buy a bottle, right? So let's say I buy a bottle for the two of us,
Oh,
fill
yeah.
that shit up.
Oh yeah, if I buy the bottle, yeah, that's
I'm
okay.
not ordering. I'm not.
I get it. You're talking about like if you buy a bottle and then like the waiter only pours you a little bit,
Yes.
and then leaves the bottle on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pour your own fucking wine, dude. You're a grown ass man.
First of all, I'm paying for service.
No,
okay?
you're paying for food.
I'm paying for service, and the food's with it, and the wine is part of the food. So he needs to fill that shit up. All right. So all you waiters out there, if I come and order some goddamn wine, if I buy the damn bottle, fill that shit up.
Right, and you'll know him. He's a big black guy. So, so now we're having the meal, and during the meal, I talked to the waiter, and I was like, hey, is Walter around? Because I messaged him earlier, told him I was going to be there. Turns out it was his wife that replied to my message and not him. But he was like, oh yeah, it's Walter. Okay, so I called him. So he called him, Walter Scarbolo, the owner of the restaurant, the owner of the winery. Excellent dude. Excellent dude. So he used to, whenever we make the reservation, he would make sure that he met us there in the restaurant, and then he would hang out with us for some of the night, or if not most of the night. Granted, he's mingling around, but he would always be there to meet the group. So I told him about that about early on in the meal, and then at the end of the meal, he comes over. I was like, oh man, he comes in, like I watch him walk into the restaurant. And he comes, talks to his manager or whoever, and then he comes right over to us, and he sits down, and he's like, how are you? And so we catch up, we shoot the shit, and then he brings over his own bottle of wine, and he's like, here, this is the Laura. So he brings over the Laura, boom, and I think he had us taste that a little bit, but it was nice. It was so awesome just to have an excellent meal, and then also be able to talk to the owner and be like, this is amazing. This is a fantastic place. It's always that special extra when you're able to talk to the person who literally makes it. Like, this is your thing.
Yeah.
So I told him, I was like, hey, Walter, I came here with a mission. Like, I drove for, like, part of the reason was because I'm buying wine. He's like, oh, great. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's fantastic. I was like, no, Walter, you don't understand. he's like, oh yeah, it's okay, you buy wine. I was like, no, Walter, I'm buying lots of wine. I'm buying a lot. And then he goes, okay. I'm like, all right, well, he's gonna see when I start ordering at the end of this. He's gonna see. During our conversations, I told him that I always wanted to check out his winery, and I always wanted to kind of see the process and how he did things. And I was always interested in that. We talk about that with whiskeys, and I've always enjoyed knowing and experiencing the process with wine also. I mean, I think just the process of creating anything is interesting. To see how things are done. Like how it's made is probably one of my favorite shows. But so, I'm like, hey, I really want to see your winery. Is there any chance I could see that before I leave? And he was like, oh, okay, yes. You can come by tomorrow. I was like, I can't tomorrow. I got plans, but I'm leaving, the day after tomorrow, and I can have lunch here, and then we can go do that. He goes, yes, perfect. Okay. So, sure enough, that day came. Did the tour, which I'll get to later. But there I was in La Frasca, which is the name of his restaurant. La Frasca, Trattoria La Frasca. So I'm I'm about a bottle of Refosco in, and maybe a few glasses, and I go up to the bar at the end, and we're checking out, and I'm like, all right, and I just went to town ordering stuff. I didn't even know what I was ordering at the time. I was just like, all right, so I want 3 cases of Refosco. No, 4 cases of Refosco. 2 cases of this, 2 cases of that, and I walked away with 46 bottles of wine that night. Not to mention the wine that I got in the car for my coworker and whatnot. So I had over 50 bottles of wine, 55, almost 60 bottles of wine for that night. For that time, that night I left and my suspension was like working right in the car. So that was absolutely one of the most delicious meals. Like not that meal in particular, but just like from that restaurant is like one of my favorite places. Like I've never ordered anything that was bad. I've never had like even anything that was like questionable. Like I probably want to get this again. Like nope, nothing.
Yeah. Well, when you find a good restaurant like that you click with,
yeah.
Is that like for me, my favorite restaurant used to be. My favorite restaurant in the world used to be in a place called, well, the place is still there. The restaurant isn't. Metz, France. It was called L'Etude. And it was a restaurant and jazz club.
Ooh.
And it was so nice. And, like, every time I went there, the food was amazing. And then, like, you know, you would eat in the restaurant, and you just go next door to the jazz club. Mm-hmm. And then you just listen to live jazz all night. And it was always wonderful. And so we left, and we were gone for maybe 6 years or so, and we came back to this area, and I was like, first thing I'm doing is I'm going to Metz.
Right, yeah.
I'm going back to that restaurant. Like I've been holding my heart, and I drive down there, and I get there, and it's no longer there, and I'm like, what?
Man. So I didn't have that problem. My place was still there. Boom. Asshole. Yep. And sorry, not sorry. So, sorry. It's fucked up. It is
in bird culture.
In
we
bird
consider that's a dick move.
Dick move. It was a little bit. So yeah. So the day in between. So I got the wine one day. Next day, go to work like normal. Then we go out with the Italians that we're working with, and that was a fun night. So he took us. Luca is his name. He took us.
Does he live on the second floor?
He might.
For those of you who catch that reference, you're awesome.
Yeah. So
even though that song is about beating your wife, but still,
you're not so awesome. So anyway, we go out, and up in this area in the north of in northern Italy, there are World War I trenches.
Damn.
That they essentially have turned into a memorial park. And so you can go there, and it was maybe 15 minutes away from where we were working. And so Luca kind of was our tour guide, and we walked through these trenches, and it was probably about 7 feet deep, and then most of them were covered, and you could see the holes that they would look out of and shoot out of. And then we walked across this large memorial, like pavilion almost, like it was like a very large open area that had the names of every battle that was fought there. Oh, okay. Like in that region, and I'm talking like 2 dozen at least. So there are 24, maybe 36 different names, and it's just plastered on these large these large frame sections that it would have. I forgot the name of one, but it would be like as you're walking up to the tomb of the unknown soldier that they have there. Mm-hmm. So it looks exactly like it, just a very blank square cube kind of tomb, and it had some writing on the side. But as you walked up to that, you would see the name of all these different battles that were fought there, and then you got up to the tomb of the unknown soldier, and there were names of people that were never claimed. Oh. Like because of World War I, they didn't really have dog tags. They had like some other method of identification. But like say I think it was a piece of paper or something like that from what he was telling us, but that paper gets burnt, gets wet, gets damaged, it gets unreadable and things like that. So they had all these names and partial names and things like that, and it was really humbling because you're like, holy crap, we don't really live in an area or a time where we can remember like mass casualty wars like that. I mean, we've had Iraq War and things like that, but those have been almost more like insurgencies than like full blown trench warfare wars. And
well, we
haven't
even had that because if you think about the wars that we've had recently, like within our within your lifetime,
yeah.
The wars have not been as bloody,
right, yeah.
They've been like, for the most part, really small skirmishes. Now, granted, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq are the longest wars we've ever been to, time-wise.
But they're not nearly as far as devastation or
devastation and lives lost is nowhere near what we had previously. So.
Yeah, so it was really cool to see that, and it was raining and lightning, so you would have hated it. But we got out there.
I don't like lightning.
Yeah, so we got out there and it was pretty cool. So on top of the hill, and I'll throw some pictures on the Facebook. We had the walk up to the memorial, and then there was even more kind of trenches or very, very, very large steps, and at the top of the hill was 3 crosses, and so it was like a huge memorial, the entire thing. And it was really humbling and fantastic to be a part of, and it was really nice to actually have some context and have Luca kind of explain some of the things. Very, very smart guy. And then we went drinking. So so we had this humbling experience, and then he drove us down to his town, which, I couldn't tell you the name of it. I think it was actually, it was close to Trieste, I believe. So it was, I want to say it was probably like his watering hole, his local watering hole, like that he actually goes to because he knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's usually the best place, right? Where the natives are.
That's what I'm talking about. So we just follow him. Just give me a drink. So followed him down to this local, I won't say winery, but it's like a wine bar, right? So all they do is they just have wines and then they have like snacks. So the 4 of us go in there. It was me, 2 coworkers, and Luca. So we go into the wine bar, and it is rustic looking. Like,
that sounds awesome.
It was like it, but it was like homely though. Like it wasn't overly done. It wasn't super decorated. It was very basic. But it had like few artistic touches that were like
the only thing that are bad that are basic are bitches.
Right. No, but I'm saying it wasn't like it was like just a regular room with some rustic quote unquote.
It wasn't artificial rustic.
Yeah,
it was truly rustic.
Yeah, absolutely. So we walked in there and it was just like your literally your average everyday kind of wine bar, like for the community kind of thing. So we go in there, and Luca asked us what we want, and I was like, well, if we're gonna be here for a while, we should do a tasting because I want to try some shit. So let's start it off light. So we start off with a white wine, and I was, start off with a Pinot Grigio. I don't know the vineyard or anything, but we sat there and had probably easily three different wines that we had there, and we hadn't eaten yet. So he brings over a meat and cheese platter. So we have a large meat and cheese platter, and we're just drinking wine and just shooting the shit. Like we're talking about so much shit. And one of the great things we talked about, which was really interesting, was self-protection. Right? So that's one of the interesting things because I talked about it's like, I'm sitting there and 2 of the guys, the guys I'm with are prior military. And then you had, so we're all prior military. Plus, you have Luca, who I'm not sure his military affiliation, but he was definitely heavily associated with military at some point. But we started talking about like guns and self protection and all that stuff, and we go down this road and if you don't know what I said, you might as well go back and listen to the self protection episodes that we had previously. I believe it's 11 and 12. Yeah, 10, 11, 11, 12. But so we just kind of talked about that, like just went back and forth on facts and just like and but anyway, for the Italian system though, it's very difficult from what he was saying to get firearms, like unless you absolutely need it. It's similar to like where we live now. And it was eye opening. I was like, I can't live here that long. Like I have to have that. I need that. I need to be able to have this. And but we go in, we just kind of like, we talk about some of the fallacies of like some left arguments and things like that, some leftist arguments. And we talk about the fallacies in those, and then, but it was a really interesting conversation that we had with Luca about that, because you don't really ever get.
Well, see, that's kind of weird.
Outside,
because, I've sworn off guns.
That's bullshit.
I've sworn off guns. I think they're bad. No one should own them. And you should see the new holster I got.
And you should see the new holster I got, because I'm gonna have them. None of you guys should have them. But I got to fill this holster somehow. But so that was an excellent time. And then Luca had to leave us so he can take care of his family, and then we went out for pizza, which was good pizza. It's Italian pizza.
You're in Italy eating pizza.
Oh my God, I love it. So
and actually, I'm not gonna let me put a quick pause on that, because I want to tell this. So a lot of times when I take Americans out to Italy or something like that, and we go and we get pizza and stuff like that.
Oh, they don't know.
They don't understand it. So like, Americans are so used to like the Pizza Hut, the Papa John's, where you just throw everything on a pizza. Italians truly believe only 3 ingredients need to go on a pizza.
Yeah.
And they need to be very high quality ingredients.
Yeah. Now that's mostly in the South though. I know where you're getting at. That's mostly in the South. That's the margarita pizza for the Naples region. And everything. Yeah.
Well, usually we're from the South. That's generally how they do things.
Yeah. But yeah. It's 3 very simple.
Simple,
toppings.
high quality toppings.
Yeah. And what is it?
Well, it'll change up, but one is the cheese.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't go with the cheese.
Yeah.
The salami or pepperoni, whatever you're gonna call it, the pepperoni,
the diavolo.
Yeah. Or you can mix it up, so you could go spicy with the pepperoncini.
Mm-hmm.
You could go kind of subtle with the what we would consider like banana peppers.
Yeah. Or you could just go basil.
Or I was gonna get the basil.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna get the basil.
Or
you could do with basil. Or you could go with basil.
No, but it's I mean, when I lived there, my favorite pizza was from I had 2 favorite pizzas because they were tied for first. But one was from my local pizzeria, which was literally a 2-minute walk away from my house. And the guy spoke 0 English, but he knew me and my order very well. I would call him up. Ciao, Jay. 10 minuti. Una rustica. Tagliati. Sì. Okay, Chichi. Yeah, it's done. That was it. Like he knew everything.
Well, that's sort of like I think
it was fantastic. So the rustica pizza though, like because it's not just about that. It's not about the pizzeria. It's about the pizza. So the pizza was it's called the rustica pizza. It had chunks of sausage on there, not like slices or anything like that, like chunks, and roasted potatoes, like chunks of roasted potatoes. So,
that sounds good.
It was delicious. Like again,
I want to point
out my favorite, and the other one was called it was from a place called El Mordisco, which is a little bit further away, like 15, 20 minutes. And that pizza had sweet salami and Philadelphia cream cheese.
That's interesting.
So delicious. Like you bite into it and it's like creamy because of it's just so delicious. And that pizza was called the Granada. Can't hardly speak for the wine. Granada, yeah. Trying to roll the R. Don't mess with me. But anyway, we had pizza that night, and we went back to our hotel, and that was it. Next day was the final day, or was the final night, and or really the final day because I was supposed to be driving back, and so I'm like, well, I'm gonna have some lunch before I go, so go up to La Frasca again, tell him that, hey, Walter's expecting me, I was supposed to meet him for a tour of the winery, and they're just like, oh yeah, see, okay, and so I give him a call up. I order some food. I order a ravioli, like 3 large raviolis as an appetizer, which was filled with ricotta and spinach. Absolutely delicious. And then had a pork fillet with potatoes, and that was pretty good. But it was like the lunch menu. I mean, it was very basic. They don't overly do anything. Like, you don't have the Olive Garden waiter like sitting there with Parmesan, like waiting for you to say stop. Like, they don't have that. But sure enough, in a few minutes after they call, he comes on over, and he sits down with me, and we sit there and talk. And I'm like, hey, I want to finish my meal, and then I want to go over to your winery. Where is it at? Can we drive there? And he's like, oh, we can walk. It's right there. It was 2 buildings over. Like, I could see it from the restaurant, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. And we talk a little bit more, and he tells me, whenever you're done, just come on over. Just pay your bill, come on over, and I'll give you the tour. And it's nothing special. His way says, like, it's nothing special. It's nothing to brag about or anything. I'm like, you don't understand. I was like, I'm not looking for this hugely extravagant, like, winery. Like, I know you don't do this for normal people. Like, I know you don't. You're not the kind of winery or the kind of place that, like, you invite people in and you're not a tourist attraction, right? So I'm like pushing. I'm like, I just want to see it. Like, you're my favorite wine. This is my favorite winery. Your favorite wines and my favorite restaurant. I was like, I just want to see it. So he's like, okay. Well, come on over. He's like, it's nothing special though. It's fucking nothing special. He's like trying to cover his ass right now, right? He's like, nothing special. So finish my meal and go over there and walk inside this warehouse, and it's got this guy just pushing this huge cart of wine. And I'm like, oh, that looks good. That looks really good. It's like just all these wines that he was shipping off to these different vendors. And let him know I was there, and then he starts giving me the tour. And he's just like, yeah, we're doing, like, this is where we do distribution. And it was like, I mean, it was a warehouse. It wasn't anything like hugely special, but it was, it's something that was like interesting for me because I was so interested in the process. So, he tells me, a few of the places where he's exporting his wines to, kind of gives me a little update of where his products are going. And I told him because, I was in Italy for a little bit, and then I moved to New Jersey, and then, back over to Europe. And I told him, when I was in the States, I could not find his wine at all. I was so upset. Could not find his wine. And so I told him about that. And sure enough, he gets on his phone, like, immediately. And he starts, like, looking up places. He's like, oh, you're in this area? Boom. Like, close to Philadelphia? Yeah. Okay. Well, we had this place here, 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 and here. I'm like, man, if I would have known that when I was there. But so most of the places were, like, restaurants that had his wines as, like, on the menu, not to buy for, like, home consumption. So,
but think about how baller that would have been to, like, go into a restaurant and be like, oh, I know this wine. I used to drink this. Yeah. I know the owner.
Please tell Walter I said hello.
I said hello. And people were like, man, this mother.
No, you don't fucking know. Who the fuck knows this guy, right? Yeah. No, I do. I fucking do. But immediately he gets on his phone. He starts looking at places. He's like, no, we export to this place. Like, this is our vendor. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, I've been here. Like, I know it. It's like, okay, cool. Anyway, so he also introduces me to his daughter again, who I think I met like years and years ago. But his daughter, Laura, who...
or is it Yanni?
It's Laura.
Or Yanni.
And I'm not playing that fucking game. So like I meet her and I'm like, immediately I'm like, oh, hey, I just had your wine. Because, the wine we're drinking right now is Mattia, which is his son, and she has her own, which is Laura. And I asked, hey, so, want to tell me the story about Laura? Yeah, we're done. Yeah, well, we're done with the bottle, aren't we? So, I ask, and I'm like, so tell me a little bit about the wine. Like, what, like, it's named after you. She's like, yes. So it's a wine that when she entered the business, because she just graduated university, when she entered the business,
Segue.
yeah, she she this was her first wine that she made, and so they named it after her. And I was like, it's really good wine. And she's like, oh, thank you. The typical stuff. And it was really nice meeting her. We had a really good conversation about the wines. She told me a little bit about the education that she was getting and the places she went to. She did a little bit of an internship in France, which was pretty cool, in the wine region there, to get some experience at the
Which
wineries
one?
and stuff. Again, like, just there.
Yeah.
Just there. So that was pretty cool. And then we go into what I call the back room, and that's where all the magic happens, right? So I walk past the distribution area into this new room, and it's just this area that has these large stainless steel vats, and on the right side and on the left side that has all the wooden barrels. So, he takes me down, and he's telling me about all the vats and like, he's telling me about the wine in every vat. And he's like, oh, this is, the 2015 Pinot Grigio. This is the 16, whatever. And we're just going down the line. And he tells me about it, and I'm like, this is really cool. And he's telling me about the process of how they mix it, and the way CO2 rises to the surface, and all the different intricacies of it, which is what I really was interested in knowing. And so he's telling me about that, and then we go to the barrels. And the barrels, he's just like, no Pinot Grigio over here. It's like Refosco, Merlot. It's like your dark, like the wines that you can taste the wood in, those. And you know how much we like those kind of things here. And I'm like, man, this is just like, he had several different kinds of barrels and everything. He's like, do you want to try some?
Bitch.
Yeah. Like, the listeners can't see my face, but my face was making this face.
For those who are listening at home, Jay's face is showing the expression of, bitch, please.
Yes.
Damn right I want to taste some of that wine.
Yes, thank you. That was LT, my facial narrator. So, then we go. He goes in the back, right? I mean, this is like an office space. This isn't like any kind of. He goes back to like the office space, and he pulls out two glasses of wine. I'm just like, "Are you just pulled out like two wine glasses?" Like, I guess I always have them on standby when you're at a winery, right?
Right.
I'm like, okay, cool. So what we did was we went to the Pinot Grigios in the stainless steel area, and we tried one that was 6 months, 8 months, and I think 18 months.
Ooh.
So what was really, really cool about that was we got to taste the different time periods, right? So the youngest, which was 6 months, I believe, was it was very murky, almost, and it was much more of the only way I can really describe it was kind of a rougher taste. It was less mellow, very, very vibrant of the grapes. And then as we went further along, it got clearer, and then it got to where it was pretty much the final product. And it was just excellent. So it was like a very murky wine to like a middle kind of almost apple juice look, and then it was very crystal clear, as the Pinot Grigios typically are. And I was like, this is just awesome, man. Literally all he did was just like open a tap on the vat, or on the stainless steel vats, and then just opened just straight into the glass. And it was just excellent. Just the idea of having it straight out of the vat was exciting enough for me. And then he asked me if I wanted to try a Refosco, and I gave him the look. Bitch, please. So of course I do. Like, you don't have to tell me. Like, you don't even have to ask. Like, if I ever don't ask me that shit. Like, it's almost insulting. I came here to do everything. So what do you want to do?
What do you want?
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Pretty much. So we go and we had the Refosco, and the Refosco was, I forgot the age of it, but obviously it wasn't done aging in the barrel yet, and that was absolutely just an excellent experience. I mean, you know, it wasn't a huge, it was not a huge, like, oh, I want to do the ultimate winery tour or anything like that. Like, I didn't walk the fields and pick the grapes or
Fondle
like
the
that.
grapes.
You know, I didn't do that entirely thing. But I mean, I'm not like I don't want to say that this winery was like a tourist attraction. It absolutely was not.
It's a family winery.
It absolutely was,
really.
and it was fantastic to see because, like I said before, like years ago, I went to the restaurant and I had the wines and I loved it, and then I came back and I had the wines and I loved it, and I got to see I got to see kind of not only how the wines progressed but also how the family progressed, because you kind of got to see when I met the son and daughter. Years ago, obviously they were younger, still in school and everything, and then now they graduated from university and they're working in the business. Like his son Mattia is traveling around the world right now. I think he's traveling around the U.S. To sell the wine to vendors, to find distribution points and everything. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like he gets awesome. And then the daughter is at the warehouse helping with local events and packaging and everything like that. And but it's just really it's an experience that I'm really happy that I had. You just kind of get to see the entire process of how things happen. You get to see like how one of my favorite things is made, and then the whole time it's a private thing. It's just me and him in this place. And like that, I think that's what made it extra special for me, was because it was like that very custom. Like I asked the owner, "Hey, I want to go look at your winery." Yeah, come on, let's go take a look. And it was just so personalized and just very, very nice.
Oh. See, I didn't have that.
No, you didn't. And then I bought more wine. Actually, at the end, I bought more wine. And
you're supposed to.
And I did. Well, yeah, I did. But also, this is probably my best part of the story, right? So I order more wine. I'm like, hey, I want more Fosco. I wanted some of this, right? And then I tell him about I told him about the podcast during our tour. And I was like, me and my friend, we have a podcast where we drink and we talk about things. And lately we've been drinking a lot of whiskey, but I'd really like to do one of your wines. Oh, okay, cool. Yes, very nice, very nice. And I'm like, no. I don't think you understand. It's one of my favorite wines. This is a big thing. I want like, is there something that you want to tell the listeners, my listeners? Is there anything that the owner and everything? And he goes, you love the wine so much, you could say whatever you want. And I was like, it's fucking damn right. And this is damn good wine.
It is actually a really good wine.
So he tells me that, and then as I'm packing up and I'm putting all the wine in the car, he gives me an extra 3 bottles. Right? And so these 3 bottles, he tells me, these are for your show.
So that what that means is we're going to have more wine.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I imagine next time or some other time we'll have those, and we'll.
I already have our drink for next time.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're good then.
Yeah.
But we'll have those, and
however,
just the fact that he was like, "Here, have these bottles, and for your show," just kind of like a gimme. It's just so awesome to have that. Yeah. And then I drove with over 70 bottles of wine in my car, and that was nice. It really chugged on the gas mileage, but it wasn't so bad.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was my Italy trip, and then after that, I went up to. I literally drove that day up to Grafenwehr area, which is like another 8, 9. God, it took so long to get there. Drove up to there, and that's where I started to hate life because I didn't do anything, except I did one thing. If you want to get to this, or you want to go into yours?
No, we'll get in mine because we'll talk about yours.
Yeah.
So. So my experience has never been my experience last week. So while Jay was out having a great time in Italy, I was down in France, but it was for a very good thing. And mine's not gonna be long because we didn't stay that long, but it was because my daughter was graduating from university.
Yay!
Yay! I christened it the official get the fuck out ceremony. So my daughter for the last 4 years has been attending university in Paris, France. And she's been doing a really good job. I don't say this often, so here's a recording. I'm very proud of her, and she needs to get the fuck out of the house. No, she's
I like
she's
the
out.
caveat to that. You're great. Get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out. No, she's actually staying in Paris for a while. She's gonna stay in Paris, and she's got a lot of things going on, and she's really spreading her wings and coming into her own. So we went down there for her graduation, and I the thing that's the most notable about this trip is I spent $1,500 on 3 meals.
Wow. For how many
On
people?
5 people.
5 people. 3 meals.
3 meals.
$1,500.
$1,500.
All right, you're gonna tell me what the hell you was eating, because this
We
has got to be
did.
like.
We did eat good. So
I hope so for $1,500.
we did. However, the thing that got me the most is the thing that I fell in love. The thing that shocked me the most while I was down there was 2 dishes I had that were eggs.
Really?
It was just eggs, but they were so good that I was just like, "Fuck you mean this is just eggs?" I was like, really? Like they presented. I mean, of course, obviously, this is France. We're in these high end ones, so they you look at it in the menu, and you're like, oh, well, this is your starter, so okay, it's not that great. But when it came out, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And then when I tasted it, I was like, holy fuck, this is really good. And one of them that I just I loved was a poached egg with bacon, mushrooms, and a gorgonzola sauce.
A poached egg.
Bacon, like little bacon bits.
Okay.
Mushrooms.
Okay.
And a gorgonzola with a gorgonzola sauce. And it was so good.
I would imagine. Well, actually, if the bacon was really like
it was
crispy,
very crispy,
then it would have been like that would have really kind of offset or complemented the gorgonzola.
Yeah,
because I think gorgonzola is like obviously really strong cheese.
Yeah,
so you got to have something to offset that.
Well, it was one of the because like so a lot of people, you go to France and you could buy different dishes or you could buy a menu. So in a menu you pay one price and they give you like 3-4 courses or how many.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the starters. So all the other starters I've had before, and I was like, I've never had this. Let me try it. And that was it. It was a poached egg, bacon, mushrooms, and gorgonzola. So good. So good. I was like, oh my god, this is like, I know I can make this at home, but I was like, I would have never thought to make that at home. You know what I mean? Even though I know I can make this, I never thought I wouldn't have thought to make this. But I'll tell you where the lion's share of the money was at this one restaurant. I am going to, I was talking to someone about the podcast and they listened to it and they said, for a podcast called Dos Offensive Gentlemen, you guys are really not that offensive.
Fuck you.
And I, so to get offensive, I am going to give you a very stereotypical French accent as I fuck up the name of this bar. But it's called Le Bar à Oysters, which literally means like the bar of oysters, oyster bar. But this place, so good. I spent so much money at this place. It was fantastic. But it's all throughout Paris. There's like 4 places in Paris. And it's a seafood bar. It's an oyster bar. And the thing that, I loved about it, because I'm a very big oyster lover, so I was in the mood for oysters, and they have several different variety of oysters in there. And then they do plateaus, seafood plateaus. So anybody knows about France, Code Seafood Plateaus is a signature of France. That's what they do. So all, you have different shellfish, oysters, snails, conkles, dog conkles, crabs, langostinos, lobsters, spider crabs, all these things on, but they're cold platters, and and I ordered what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them.
7 platters?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a lot of food.
That's impressive.
It was a lot of food.
I'm not even mad.
I'm not even mad either. And the fact that we sludged through like all of it, like we were just like, oh my, it was so good. And the customer service there was, I mean, it was they were just so good. So like Paris has a very bad reputation for tourists where let's be honest. I've been there enough times to say, generally Parisians are assholes.
Yes.
They're Parisians.
This is true.
But at this restaurant, they were like, "Oh yeah, this was. What do you want, sir? Da, da, da. Now I speak very little French, and it's very bad. My daughter, of course, she's been there for the last 4 years. She actually does speak French pretty well. But they realized we were Americans, and my mother-in-law came over for this event as well, and they were like really very helpful. Like, oh, what do you guys want? Helping with the menu and stuff like that. And they were really attentive to us and stuff like that. And they were like, it was great customer service. So I I gave them a very good Yelp review.
I'm a platinum member. It's what I do.
But,
it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, but that meal alone took a huge chunk. Now, granted, I want to say that this place is like really, really expensive. It is expensive. However, we ordered a lot of food.
Right.
So, generally for like, a small group, you're going to pay, I would say probably expect to pay around 75 or 100 euro per person for a good meal.
Yeah, I could see that. But that's for a good meal.
For a good meal.
Like, we're talking like.
I made sure, so we doubled that.
But if you're having seafood and you're having like oysters and like huge platters and stuff like that, that's understandable, really.
And lobster and spider crab and regular crab and all this stuff, and then bottles of wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's easy once you start adding up like platters and
that was
especially with the what you said 5 people.
Yeah.
I mean
that was a good chunk of where that 1,500
I bet
came from. So, but it was very, very, very good. So the trip down there to Paris, I really don't like, when I tell people I go to Paris, we go there so often that it's like, we're going to Paris. Matter of fact, one of my favorite things I always tell people is like, there was one time I had to, I woke my my middle daughter up and I was like, hey, get up, get ready, get your stuff packed. We're heading out. And she's like, she get up groggy and she's like, where are we going? I'm like, we're going down to Paris. And she's like, oh my God, Paris again. And I'm like, and it hit me. I was like, oh my God, you don't know how many people
would literally shank other people.
Yeah, to have that lifestyle to be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna pop down to Paris. So like, going there for us is like just it's normal.
It's a train, yeah. I mean,
it's a train ride, but we drove this time.
Okay.
We drove. It's a couple hours drive. But we drove down there and once again had to brave Parisian traffic, but went down. Really nice time. The ceremony was great. It was in this old theater, one of the oldest theaters in Paris, where they held it, and we went there and I'm gonna be honest. I'm just gonna be honest. Personally, I was bored. Not because the ceremony was boring. I was like, get to the part where you give them the diploma, so we fuck out.
Yeah. We have 17 guest speakers.
But no, but they did have a lot of guest speakers. And when I went back and looked at the video, like I kind of feel bad because like when I listened to some of the people and what they've accomplished, I was like, holy shit, that was actually pretty interesting. I probably should have talked to that person more than been like, hey, I am trying to chase down this appetizer plate.
Yeah.
But afterwards, they had a little thing and a reception and the appetizers, and this was France, and the appetizers and the wine and the champagne and everything at the little mixer thing afterwards was so good. Oh my god!
So you can't see LT's face right now, but it's kind of in between an O face and. and I just had a really good glass of wine face. So I'm not really sure which one it is.
It was probably,
But his eyes were rolling in the back of his head, just so you can imagine that.
Well, let me put it this way: I've been to several graduations, including my own, and nothing ever was close to that.
Nice.
It was so good, and of course, so I don't want to name names, but there were several celebrities there, and one of the coolest things that happened while we were there was my middle daughter. You know, she watches a lot of these shows, and she recognized one. So, you know, rewind 4.5 years, and we're on this boat on the river, you know, on the Seine River in Paris. You know, it was the parents and family mixer sort of thing for the university. We're here to drop off our daughter, and my daughter's like, "Oh my God, I recognize that guy from TV. I know who this is." And she was like, "We need, let's go over and talk to him." So we go over there, and he's like, "Yeah, he was really cool," and he takes a picture with her. And then I was like, you know, I take a picture with him, and then we have this group shot and stuff like that. So while we're doing the gala, we're walking through, and he's like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey."
You recognize him?
Yeah. And
oh,
I was
awesome.
like, and we were talking. I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh my God," he whips out his phone. He goes, "I still have those pictures."
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." So I was like, he's like, "Yeah, where's, you know, my other daughter?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you're not gonna recognize it right now." Like, so when we took the picture, she was probably as tall as his shoulder.
Yeah.
She's taller than him.
Oh wow.
Now. And it was like, he was like, "Whoa." And then he saw my son, and he's like, "Wow." I was like, "Last time I saw you, you were this big." And he was like, and I was just sitting there going, "Oh my God, there's this guy," you know, like he called us out, like, you know, and he is a celebrity. I'm not going to name his name, but he was there, and that was cool. And there were several others there too. That was like, you know, because this school, just to be fair, this school is a lot of rich kids go to this school. It is not a cheap school.
Well, I mean, it's in Paris, so
yeah, it is not a cheap school at any stretch. And, you know, and thankfully we were in a position where we were able to afford sending her there. But it was really cool, like, to sit there, and I was like, that was the coolest thing. Like, we're going through, you know, champagnes, and I just hear, you know, he's like, he calls me, he actually says my name, you know,
nice.
across the room, and I turn, I'm like, "Ah," you know, and it was like, "Oh, we did this meet." I got to meet some of my other friends. One of my other friends from South Africa, we bond because he's always all over the place. So, you know, we'll ping each other here and now and there. He was there too, so it was great to see him again.
Yeah, just kind of see where each other are at.
Yeah,
all throughout the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, and it was just a great time. So not as fun as Jay's winery, but it was a great little trip down there. And you know, we only stayed about 2 days, and then we came back. But I spent a lot of money in that 2 days. But it was a great time, and of course, you know, if anybody wants more information about that, I think I'll probably post it on the book face for the places that's what we should probably do. Yeah. Things we drink and eat, we should probably put it on the book face.
We need to be more active on that too.
We do. We need to like work less and do this more.
Yeah, that would be great. Actually, so I actually thought about this, right? So, you know, we've talked about doing trips for our, you know, for the podcast. And, you know, I am really thinking about starting a GoFundMe or some kind of site like that for a specific trip, and then our listeners can donate to it. And then once we reach a certain dollar amount, then we go and do whatever the trip is, which I think would be pretty cool because we do a lot of whiskey. So, and we've always talked about doing a whiskey tour or a distillery tour in Scotland. I think that would be amazing, especially if we did, you know, really any one of them. I would love to do the Glendevron or the Balvenie. I think those would be some of my favorite to do.
Oh, those would be awesome.
But you know, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like if we do a, you know, let's say we get, you know, raise. What do you think? Like $700. Boom. Somehow that should pay for tickets and entry fee,
and everything.
Yeah, I think something like that would be cool.
Well,
but I mean, we'll think about that
put
on
that
the
in the
side,
future.
but it is something I've thought about because I really do want to start sharing our travel and whiskey stories. I think that'd be really
awesome.
cool, especially if we have like a handheld recorder and we can actually do interviews like on the spot with people. I think that would be awesome. Yeah.
So and that's saying the same. So and we're generally on the move all the time. So for instance, Jay next week is going back
to Italy.
Yeah,
I'll be in Rome for a few days. Yeah,
and this weekend I'll be jumping on my Harley and I will be going to a bike week.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have more adventures, but I think that's good for now.
Yeah, I think it is. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, I had a great time in Italy. I'm glad I was able to share it with you guys.
I had a great time in Paris, and the only thing that was hurting from there was my wallet, but it'll heal because one down.
Oh, wait, actually, I didn't tell you about when I got back to Germany. It's the Gunfighter Gymnasium.
Well, then we'll have to save that for next time.
Okay. Next time. All right, we'll see you guys later.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Dose of Adventure Gentlemen podcast. We want to hear what you got to say, so leave us a comment below and hit that like button. Also, subscribe so you can get your future DOG updates.